Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. Coming up this hour on the most dangerous show on the airwaves, the former Seattle Police Department chief who got fired got a massive settlement. Perhaps I'm in the wrong business. And WNBA coaches show their complete hypocrisy. But before we get to any of that, my friends, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
The wildfires in eastern Washington are some of the worst I have ever seen. For those of you who haven't seen video of it yet, or are outside of Washington State who listen to the show, this is the kind of stuff we saw in Malibu last year. This is the kind of stuff we saw in Florida. In California. This is the kind of stuff that you see out of horror movies. It is that bad. Saturday night when I came back online, I already had some of you waiting for me with messages of this is my neighborhood, this is my neighborhood. Cars on fire, houses burned to the ground, absolutely burned to the ground. Friend of the show, Representative Jenny Graham, who represents that area out there in Spokane, she sent me a picture of her house, or I should say what's left of her house. She sent me a picture where the only thing left of her entire house is her American flagpole. The flag is still there, and the flag was still there. Flagpole still there. House entirely gone. Entirely gone. It is that bad. It is that bad. Now, I also had something else waiting for me, which was everybody's conspiracy theory about what caused this, including some elected officials and some former government officials. So I will tell you something, guys. I am going off the facts. I am not going off of conspiracy theories. People's lives are at risk. People have lost everything. And the last thing they need us doing right now, while rescue efforts are underway, while evacuation orders are underway, and while they have people who've lost their homes, they don't want to hear the conspiracy theories. They don't want to hear them. I am going to give you the facts as we get them, and already we've debunked some of this stuff. But you will have the facts on this. We can speculate another time when people's lives are not at risk. Afterwards, speculate all you like. We like doing that here on the show. So we have a statewide wildfire emergency. We have a burn ban in effect. And let's start with the positive, actually. The positive is it seems like Bob Ferguson and President Trump are actually working together. It seems like Democrats and Republicans in the Washington congressional delegation are working together. And that's encouraging. That's super encouraging because it's an emergency. Everybody comes together. That's good. In fact, I had to double check that this was actually Bob Ferguson. Had to double check because he was talking nicely about President Trump.
I will just say I can't speak to the past. I wasn't governor then. But what I can say is I deeply appreciate the president taking time. I think I requested a conversation. I'm losing track of the hours here today, but just a few hours ago. And I was on the phone with him literally a couple hours later. And I had the clear sense he understood what was going on. I had the clear sense he'd been briefed on what was going on. He was knowledgeable about the situation. And I appreciated that.
Also, he said we're basically getting everything we need from the feds. Also, in an election year, you don't want to be the guy who delayed a response to a massive disaster like this one, where you're talking about hundreds of structures, a.k.a. homes and other buildings, being burned down, 60,000 people. I think now it's 70,000 people under evacuation orders or having already been evacuated. It is that bad. It is that bad. In fact, today, this was supposed to be a beautiful day. It's super hazy outside. I assume the smoke is coming our way. The most destructive fires are centered around Spokane, where the old trails, Fairview, and Autumn Lane fires have devastated neighborhoods. We're up to 700 structures, including hundreds of homes, which have been destroyed. Jenny Graham, so many people reached out to me when I posted that video, which somebody sent me, and they said, that's my neighborhood, that's my neighborhood, that's my neighborhood. My house is gone. Everything I had is gone. It's that horrific. Close to 70,000 people have been placed under evacuation orders, making it one of the largest wildfire evacuations in recent Washington history. Spokane Mayor Lisa Brown described the disaster as the worst natural disaster our region has ever faced. Now, it was good to see Representative Michael Baumgartner up there during the press conference yesterday with Bob Ferguson and some of the other Democrats like Maria Cantwell. Here's what he said at the time.
Well, thank you, everyone. Indeed, this is a devastating fire. We know that hundreds, if not thousands, are in a very sad and scary place right now. I want to echo the comments, thanking our first responders for what you're doing for our community. Indeed, this is an unprecedented catastrophe for the Spokane area, but I think we're going to see unprecedented collaboration in responding to this fire. I want to thank Mayor Brown, Senator Cantwell, Governor Ferguson, and everyone here working on this issue. This is not Republicans and Democrats are seeing before you. This is concerned elected officials. They're going to do what's right for this community. I did speak to Homeland Security Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen earlier today. We have a good personal rapport, and I think he is someone that knows Spokane. He's spent some time here in Spokane, and I know he will be supporting us in this. We have, as you heard from the governor, he has, after receiving the needed information from the partners behind us, he has made the initial request. We appreciate that very much, and I am optimistic, very optimistic, that there will be additional support from FEMA. It's certainly a good precedent for our state that we were successful in that process with the terrible flooding on the west side of the state. And so we will monitor and support that process as it goes forward. But I will also add, and others will go into deeper detail, while we will do everything we can to get support from the federal government, the key point for support here is from our neighbors and our communities and our friends and families. There are going to be ways the city will be telling you that you can support, the people of the Spokane area can support, and we're going to need that. So thanks, everyone. Be safe. Doesn't look like the weather's getting a lot better for the next week to 10 days. It's still going to be dry, so we need to continue to have people be alert and follow the emergency management systems. Thank you.
Now, it's a really good thing that Katie Wilson isn't in charge, because maybe she would have let a couple days go by until the dignitaries showed up, because that press conference wasn't until yesterday and the fires were already going on Saturday. It's a good thing Katie Wilson wasn't in charge, because we'd probably still be waiting on those dignitaries, probably trying to figure out what went wrong. Now, we don't know what caused this fire yet. We don't know. There's a lot of speculation out there. There's a lot of guesswork out there. But that didn't stop former Governor Jay Inslee from speculating about this thing. And, of course, if Jay's opening his mouth, he's a one-trick pony, and he's only got one thing he's going to say over and over and over again. Yep, Captain Planet is at it again.
It's a beautiful morning here in Lopez Island, but I'm so concerned. Talked to my friend, a legislator in Spokane, whose home he had to evacuate because of these massive fires in Spokane County. The whole state's under threat now, climate change. You know, climate change isn't some existential global thing. It's our neighbors, it's our friends. We had to fight for them.
Do you have any evidence that this was caused by climate change? Any whatsoever? Any evidence at all? Before you mouth off saying, oh, now's my chance to run for governor. Oh, wait, no, president. I could be the president. No evidence whatsoever. But yet he ran with that right away because he wants to be on MS Now, M Snow, or CNN, or some random podcast because the dude wants to be relevant. You know what happens when you make assumptions? Yeah, you know how that goes. Funny, because the Northwest Coordination Center, they're the guys who are quarterbacking this whole thing where all the information goes through. I had a nice little conversation with them earlier today because there were some reports coming out of their office. The origins of the fires were human. as in not caused by lightning or another natural source. That doesn't mean somebody started this fire. We don't know what that means yet. I know a lot of you have said, Ari, there's a lot of homeless people out in Spokane. There's a lot of homeless people who live in forested areas, and they start fires all the time. In fact, some of you have sent me videos of them starting fires, but not of starting this fire. You may be proven right, but we don't know that yet. Human cause can also mean somebody left a campfire unattended. Human cause can also be somebody didn't secure their chains properly on their truck, and the chains are throwing up sparks. Human cause can mean somebody chucked a cigarette out a window of a car. That's what human caused means. Now, when I did talk to the Northwest Coordination Center, they were a little confused too, because they said, we don't know where that report came from. We know it's our report. We don't know who issued it, and we're trying to figure that out as well, because we want to know what the people who said that know, because I think they released that one a little early. But the case is here, whoever's on scene is saying human caused. That means somebody did something, maybe even fireworks. Somebody did something, and now you have these massive wildfires. And we don't know what that was. But to claim this is because of climate change, Jay Inslee, I mean, shame on you. He just got ratioed into oblivion. You could maybe take a beat and see if you're right or not. Maybe take a beat, because you know it's going to be worse. If this was a homeless guy, or the other conspiracy theory that's running around out there that one of these fires was actually the site of a proposed data center, we have nothing to indicate that somebody set that fire right now. We have no evidence to that. We are not going to put out the conspiracy theories right now. We are going to wait for the evidence, but that doesn't stop Jay Inslee with the biggest conspiracy theory of all time. It's climate change, climate change. Okay, Jay, let's play your little game for a second. Let's say it is climate change. Well, then, didn't you tax us a whole bunch of money to mitigate the effects of climate change? Didn't you tax us a whole bunch of money to mitigate, literally it says this in the bill, forest fires? So how come we haven't been spending the money on that? DNR, Department of Natural Resource officials, said Eastern Washington forests were overstocked after decades of fire suppression as catastrophic wildfires forced thousands from their homes and triggered a massive state and federal response. This is the kind of stuff they've been warning about for years. Now, the question should be why Dave Upthegrove and crew hasn't done anything about it. Firefighters are continuing to battle the blazes, but we know the kinds of things that aren't being done that should be done. For example, months before this year's fire season intensified, Washington Department of Natural Resources officials publicly warned that many eastern Washington forests had become dangerously overgrown after decades of fire suppression and changing management practices. So, basically, you shut down logging, and now you got a problem. You shut down the logging, you don't do as much logging, and now the loggers aren't protecting forests and clearing brush. During a briefing to the Washington Board of Natural Resources, DNR Forest Resource Division Manager Cameron Crump said active forest management is widely accepted as necessary to restore healthier forests. Quote, a century of fire exclusion policies and past management practices have altered Eastside forest ecosystems. She explained that many dry forests are now overstocked with fire-intolerant tree species, increasing drought stress, insect infestations, disease, and the likelihood of unusually severe wildfires. The department manages more than 2.25 million acres of forest statewide, roughly one-third of which is located in eastern Washington. So, did bad policies create this mess? Now, they say they've been spending all this money on mitigating this kind of stuff. I haven't actually seen that. You know what I have seen? Did they cut the funding for that giant 747 that was going to be dropping water on fires? Yeah, Lars talks about this thing. He's been talking about this thing for what, 20 years now? He's been talking about that airplane?
That's right. Yeah, a listener, Ron, just called in and said, hey, I sent you guys a text with the super tanker. I said, Ron, do you actually believe I've not heard about this since Lars has been talking about it nonstop for the past 10 years?
Exactly. We know about the super tanker. In fact, Kevin, I will argue at this point, I've been on air, 5.5 years now?
Yeah.
Has a summer gone by where there hasn't been a fire where I haven't said, hey, you know that big airplane that Lars talks about all the time? We've literally been doing this since we came on. We know about the giant airplane. They're not using the giant airplane. In fact, yesterday during Seafair, there was this, they do a little impromptu rescue. So they throw a dummy out of the Coast Guard helicopter, and they're like, we're going to go save the dummy and show you how we do things with the Coast Guard. Well, they did this whole shtick where we can't get the dummy. It's too rough out. Oh, we need some help. And this World War II firefighting rescue plane comes in or something. And I'm like, hey, I think that thing's needed elsewhere today. I don't think we need to be doing the Seafair demonstration today. Maybe we should send that sucker out to Eastern Washington if it still flies.
Yeah, let's put that to good use other than, some hijinks for people to watch.
I mean, it's fun, don't get me wrong, but I'm not necessarily sure that should be what it is. Inslee frequently emphasizes climate change as a primary driver behind increasingly destructive wildfire seasons, while supporting investments in forest health and wildfire responses. At the same time, DNR officials continued warning that eastern Washington forests remain dangerously overstocked and required substantially more mechanical thinning, prescribed burning, and other active management to reduce the risk of catastrophic fires. Wait. Wasn't it Jay Inslee and crew who said, logging is bad. We need to save Mother Earth, and we're not going to log anymore. Oh, also, I need to double check this. Didn't the money from logging, didn't the taxes that came from logging go to education? And then you start having less money in education because you shut down the logging? So basically now the Department of Natural Resources is saying, yeah, we probably should have been doing burnings to clear the forest before this. In fact, we should have been doing it for years. Well, we haven't been doing this right for 20, 30 years now. So 2-3 generations have gone by of kicking this can down the road because of climate change. And now these things are worse. How about this? When I first moved to Seattle 22, 23 years ago, I don't remember wildfire season like we have it now. You know what I remember? I remember them being risks for fires. Hey, it's dry. It's a drought. Or you know what? Be careful with your fires. I remember Smokey Bear. People get mad when I call him Smokey Bear. Smokey Bear. I remember Smokey Bear, right? It is Smokey Bear, right? Not Smokey D. Bear. It's Kermit D. Frog, Smokey Bear.
I think it used to be Smokey the Bear.
Yes.
The Bear.
The Bear.
But I think they changed it to Smokey Bear.
Yes.
And I actually had a caller complaining about that because one of our PSAs has
has the bear. They got
bear.
The guy from Seinfeld. They got Putty from Seinfeld being the ranger.
No, but the most recent one has like through the years the ad campaigns, and you can hear at the beginning when it was like Smokey the Bear or whatever, and then by the end of it it's Smokey Bear or whatever.
Smokey Bear.
And it's like I miss the as well.
Yes. Okay. Either way, the bear. Only you can prevent forest fires, right? I remember all that, but I remember smoke season. What was it, about 10-ish years ago? It started being every summer. You got the bad smoke, and look, I don't have the best lungs, actually. I really don't. So I was working outside at the time with the event rental company. I would have to go to the doctor to get this stuff to hack out all the garbage that would get in my lungs. You can't have pets outside. I remember one time we had to keep the kids home and they couldn't go outside during the summer because of how bad the smoke gets. For those of you who don't live in Washington, maybe those of you on the East Coast have had a taste of it because of what happened with the Canada wildfires. Here, it got so bad that summer, Kevin. I remember it smells like burning marshmallows in the air when you're just walking around outside. It's that bad.
Yeah, I mean, you could see it settling on cars and on your window.
Yep.
If you have AC, the filters in there are just
black. It's so gross.
Yeah.
This is no joke, by the way. This is a very serious thing. But for Jay Inslee to come out and immediately say, climate change. You might have an argument. Let's go with your debunked science. You might have an argument to say it got worse by climate change, but to say it was caused by it, Right now, the responders are saying it wasn't caused by it. So wrong again, Jay Inslee. Man, can you just like fade away? Fade away. Just fade away to Idaho, Jay Inslee. Anyway, there is a list of places you can donate to. Como News has a whole list up about the Red Cross and other organizations you can give money to. They have a whole list, the Red Cross Northwest Region, Home Starts Here Fund, Support Firefighters of Spokane, Fire Station 16, Partners Inland Northwest, Catholic Charities of Eastern Washington. There's a whole bunch of different organizations they have up here. Don't fall for the scams, my friends. Make sure you're giving to a legit organization. And if you know a legit organization, email me. Don't call. Email me, arikvi.com. That's arikvi.com. So that way I can vet them. I can make sure they're legit, and we will give it out to our audience so we can help everybody out, okay? But here's the thing also. If you're in need, if you're within the sound of my voice and you're having problems with this stuff, please reach out. We'd love to try and help you, or we get your story out there at the minimum and tell everybody what's going on, just like our friend Jenny Graham, who literally the only thing left to her house right now is the American flag on its flagpole out front of her house, which is really, really sad. This is no joke, and people trying to politicize it like Jay Inslee, disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. Reprehensible. I don't have enough words to talk about what an awful, garbage human being Jay Inslee is. Thank God he's not the governor anymore. And also something else, we saw with the floods earlier this year that the governor, Bob Ferguson, and President Trump weren't exactly getting along on that. I'm glad that everybody is working together to solve this. I'm glad that everybody is working together to solve this and get people to help. That's what we need to happen. Give me more of that, please. And give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Up next, my friends, speaking of money, Seattle Police Chief Sean Barnes gets fired and gets an over $700,000 settlement. Give you the details when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder for those of you who don't get to hear all 3 hours of the show, from 6 to 7 p.m. every single weekday, we have the Ari Hoffman Show Reloaded. That's right, my friends. Fresh content from that day that you may have missed. You listen from 6 to 7 p.m. and get caught up is brought to you by our friends over at Wade's Eastside Guns and Bellevue Indoor Range, which I had the pleasure of going to yesterday for the first time. So that was great. So really, really awesome that they are sponsoring that. That's from 6 to 7 p.m. So when the show is over, from 6 to 7 p.m., you can get the Ari Hoffman Show Reloaded. We go to the KVI studio line, take a call from Gerald in Covington. Gerald, what's going on?
Hi, I was just thinking it is climate change. It's not the climate change they think it is. It's the political climate change that's causing all these problems, not just the fires, but homelessness and a whole bevy of things. So that when they tell you climate change, you need to put it back on them.
Well, when they say climate change, I always go, what does that mean? Because it used to be global warming or global cooling or whatever it was. Now it's just the generic climate change. And I've seen no evidence to suggest that at all. You want to say it's dry out? Hey, some years we have a lot of water. Here's something else for you. If they were truly concerned about drought, we have a boom or bust system here in the West Coast, like California. Then maybe you guys should have built more reservoirs or more dams. Last time I checked, the Democrats are always trying to tear them down. Thanks for the call, Gerald. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the KVI studio line. Take a call from Dave in Monroe. Dave, what's going on?
Yeah, Harry, have your research team should be easy to find with the carbon tax that Jay Inslee put on the state of Washington on top of the 50-plus cent tax for gasoline. I believe it's between 50 and 60 cents a gallon. So that's got to be in the billions every year for the last 5-6 years.
Yeah, in fact, we've actually discussed this on the show many, many times, Dave, and that's my point. I said if they were so serious about this, maybe they should have used the money from the Climate Commitment Act for all that infrastructure. They said literally that thing was supposed to go to mitigating the effects of climate change. So if they believe that forest fires are caused by climate change, maybe they should have done something to mitigate forest fires. I don't know, by clearing forests or maybe by building more dams and reservoirs. Just a thought. Just a thought. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Go back to the KVI studio line. Take a call from Craig in Puyallup. Craig, what's up, man?
Hey, I retired from a fire department a bit ago, but one of the side specialties I have, some people did diving or water rescue. I did wildland firefighting. So been east of the mountains, California, various other states quite a few times. But this isn't anything new. And I'm also history geek. December 1929 to January 1930. There's a dock down at Tacoma where the USS Lexington, an aircraft carrier of that era, they had it, I guess you'd say, berthed. You're the boat guy. Tied up next to that dock, and it supplied power because the reservoirs were so low due to a very poor snowpack that year. And so it's happened before.
Yeah.
There's pictures of the TV video or film of the TV show Emergency done in the early 70s.
Craig, you're breaking up a little bit there. Craig, you're breaking up a little bit. I find this fascinating. I really, really do, but we have a bad connection. But yeah, this is nothing new. This is something that has happened multiple times before. The difference is what causes it to spread more. The difference is how we deal with it. The difference is mitigating the effects of it. And it seems like our elected officials have decided to make things worse. Appreciate the call, buddy. Appreciate your service. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. We go back to the KVI studio line, take a call from Hank in Squim. Hank, what's going on?
Hey, not much, Art. Hey, I'm from the Wenatchee area originally, and I've been involved in the front lines of our two biggest fires in the state in 14 and 15. And what I wanted to say is this isn't nothing new, because I grew up in Wenatchee, and there was big fires in the Aniat, Bonaparte, Clockham, where it caused that train to explode in the early 70s there, that fertilizer train. And so all this isn't new, and the way that they are managing. I work for one of the world's biggest farmers over there, and they had a lot of land, and they managed their land really well. They thinned it out, and it was easy to maintain the fires when they got on their land. But right next to their property with the U.S. Forest Service and the DNR, they burnt like heathens, especially that 2014 fire and 15 fire. We were the renegade cowboys on D8s out there fighting fire. Our farmer was flipping the bill for that, out of his own pocket. He spent like $4 million helping fight that fire. And it was amazing watching the government people handle themselves and how they, after every big fire, they say we're going to do this and we're going to do this, because it's like they're high on the fire season. And then as soon as that year goes by, they forget about it. Everything they say that they promised they were going to do to slow this stuff down.
They don't do it. Yeah.
Better, they don't
Hank,
do it.
I was out in, where was I? I was in Natchez, Washington a few weeks ago. A relative of mine owns Whistling Jack's, the lodge out there, and I was driving up there. You could still see the devastation from the last year when they had, was it last year or the year before? When they had those massive wildfires, and they didn't do anything to mitigate that for the next time around. You're 100% right, Hank. It's just rinse and repeat. Oh, yeah, we're going to promise, and we're not going to do anything to actually deal with it.
Sound good. You got to sound good, right, Ari? You
exactly.
Sound really good at what you're saying. All right, well, it's good talking to you, Artie.
Good talking to you, too. Appreciate the call. Thank you. I appreciate that. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Up next, if you're mad about the way they respond to forest fires out here, you're going to be more mad when you find out how much of your taxpayer dollars are going to a police chief who got fired. It's more than you and I are going to see in a year. We'll give you all the details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. So I was really, really mad on Saturday. I'll tell you why. I live for the Blue Angels. Love the Blue Angels. It's like another Jewish holiday around my house. So every year for Seafair weekend, it usually lines up with my father-in-law's birthday. We go up to his house, and he's on top of a hill, so you get a great view of the Blue Angels. We go up there, we have a big lunch for his birthday, and then we just wait for the show to start. Back when they used to fly earlier, we would watch the show, then go have the big lunch. So we know the Blue Angels fly at 3:30. This is Saturday. I don't have my electronics. I don't got my phone. I don't got my computer. Nothing, because it's Jewish Sabbath. So what happens? We finish eating. Great lunch, by the way. I take a glass of wine, or two, or three, and I head on up to the deck of their house, and I'm just sitting there waiting for the Blue Angels. And it's not just no Blue Angels. There were very few flyovers that day at all. And I don't know what's going on. So around the house, we start going, well, what do you think it was? Do you think it was the protesters? And I'm thinking to myself, well, if the protesters infiltrated the Blue Angel staging area, we got bigger problems. Do you think it was a mechanical issue? A mechanical issue grounding the entire squadron? I don't think so. Do you think it was the wind? The wind was going, but I didn't think it was that big a deal. But yes, they did cancel the Blue Angels. I had no idea. Had no idea until that night. But then when I came back online and I saw that the Blue Angels had been canceled because of wind, and then I saw the wildfires, I said, oh my God. Imagine what that wind is going to do for the wildfires. Truly horrifying. Truly, truly horrifying. Glad we got the Blue Angels when we did on Sunday. Had a great time having a barbecue with some neighbors and doing that. This one here from Bob in the 509. Ari, I've been flying tankers for 26 seasons. Been on the fire complex around Spokane since Saturday. This complex is getting a lot of attention because it burned into the urban wildland interface. That being said, the folks of the Colville and Yakima reservations have been getting decimated for over a month. Media and politicos live for photo ops. None of the mega fire rigmarole is new. The current paradigm is essentially post-spotted owl debacle in relation to forest management. In 2014, the Carlton complex burned. About 253,000 acres, took out 353 homes in and around Pateros. At the same time, we had several other fires over 100,000 acres in Washington, Oregon. This is a guy giving us context to how much was going on. Towns were vaporized. Catastrophic wind event combined with dry lightning turned the region into a blast furnace. Towns were vaporized. About 100 folks died. Not sure if the former governor includes 1910 in his blanket climate change statement. So basically what he's saying is stop saying it's climate change. This is the kind of stuff that happens, and has been happening for a very, very long time. Appreciate the perspective, Bob, in the 509. Thank you. Meanwhile, switching gears to Seattle. So our disastrous mayor, I think it's safe to say our failed mayor. I mean, we're only 7-8 months into this, but I think we could say failed mayor now. You know how she got Sean Barnes to resign? Sean Barnes was telling everybody he was fired, he was fired, he was fired. Well, you need him to say he resigns, right? Seattle taxpayers could be on the hook for more than $700,000 after Mayor Katie Wilson asked embattled police chief Sean Barnes to resign, just days after the city's mishandling of the deadly Bite of Seattle mass shooting. According to an optional resignation agreement, which one of our wonderful listeners sent to me, Barnes will leave City Hall with 18 months of salary worth approximately $560,000, more than $30,000 in taxpayer-funded health insurance, payment for unused vacation leave, and the ability to keep $110,000 in hiring and relocation incentives that the city agreed not to recover. Kevin, I'm doing life wrong. I should just go be the police chief for a year or two, get fired, and you get like 4 or 5 years salary, and then I can come back to doing radio. That'll be great. Well, at least Sean Barnes can pay off his tax liens now, right? Oh, sorry. Is it too soon to bring that up again? Oh, sorry. The $80,000 in tax liens while he was renting a really swanky apartment down near the stadiums? You're paying this guy $700,000? So Katie Wilson firing the inept police chief to cover her own ineptness is now costing Seattle taxpayers $700,000. And did you change the equation at all? No. You have a new interim police chief who also lives in Chicago. Well, this is going to be great. What did you fire him for? Barnes is inept. Don't get me wrong. We call him Chief Wiggum because he's like the guy in The Simpsons, right? We know this. He was inept, completely inept. But he was also the fall guy. Two things can be true at once. And now we have to pay this guy $700,000 $700,000 to settle this nonsense? No, this is Katie Wilson's mistake. Take it out of her salary. Here she makes $300,000 a year. Don't forget, Barnes was getting $374,000 a year. He was getting paid more than the mayor. What a grift. What a ripoff. What an absolute grift. Up next, my friends, WNBA is collapsing under its own hypocrisy. Tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI. I tell you, people have not talked about the WNBA this much ever. Ever, ever, ever. And what they're talking about is Sophie Cunningham. She's the outspoken player on the Indiana Fever who had the gall to say women's sports should be for women. I know. Revolutionary. I know. Incredible. But the rest of the league seems to be running away from this. And now we've been discussing for about a week now where Caitlin Clark, who's her teammate, and Sophie Cunningham and the Fever go, they actually sell out games. Now, you could do what the actual NBA did, which is when they had Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, and then they start getting more stars, and Michael Jordan. They're like, we're going to clean up the sport, we're going to prioritize these guys, and we're going to make money off it. Or instead, you could say, you know what, we want to be welcoming to everybody. Let me tell you something, number one. Number one, your own bylaws say you can't have men in the sport. So I don't know what you're talking about. Number two, there ain't that many trans people in the country, and you're trying to get them as a market share? Okay, you're alienating everybody else in the process. But number three, this is a women's league, a women's sport. And you're like, we want to be in it for the men. Oh, another win for the patriarchy. Well done. Really well done. It's like Oscar Mayer saying, we really care about vegetarians. We really want to make sure that we lock down those vegetarian hot dog eaters. Give me a break. So, over the weekend, you would think that maybe, just maybe, Sophie Cunningham's coach would have her back. This is Indiana Fever coach Stephanie White, who gave an answer that sounds a lot like something a Supreme Court justice nominated by Joe Biden might say.
What is your stance on men or athletes who test as biological male participating in women's sports? What's your personal stance?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I would say that I'm educated enough from a scientific standpoint. I don't ever believe that exclusion is an answer. I just don't. I do think, when we think about various levels of sport, various governing bodies of sport and things that go into that, like I said, I'm not educated enough at the different levels. I know growing up, I played with the boys all the time.
Okay, I can't take this rambling nonsense anymore. I just can't. Yes, we played with the girls, too, in gym class when we were in 3rd or 4th grade. And then at some point they said those girls are going to get killed by those boys if we play tackle football with them or dodgeball or anything else for that matter. Let's do boxing with the girls. Sure, let's do wrestling with the girls. That's all horrible ideas. Don't do any of that. You're not educated enough? You're the coach of a girls' basketball team. You're not educated enough? By the way, don't talk to me about exclusion. How many girls get to play in the WNBA? How many? A fraction of a percent? A fraction of the girls who play college ball and high school ball get to go to the WNBA? You guys are all about exclusion. All about it. And they have to be of a certain age. I assume when they get too old, they ain't playing no more. What craziness. In fact, now, they don't even want to talk about it. Now they just shut down the press conferences.
I think there's always going to be outside noise, but I think we've been professionals long enough to know that if you let that affect you, then you're not really here for the right things. And so for us, we just keep the main thing, and that's hoops.
Okay, speaking of that outside noise, Sophie, your teammate, Sophie came out with
Oh, thank you. Have a good day.
Goodbye. Goodbye. We don't want to talk about this no more. Goodbye. We're done. The thing that is selling tickets and selling jerseys and selling sneakers and selling everything else, you're shutting it down. Goodbye. 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 Now, the most disappointing moment was Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark, she's been the one who Sophie Cunningham has been defending on the court. Caitlin Clark's own personal bodyguard is basically Sophie Cunningham. So Sophie Cunningham is dealing with all this backlash by the crazies. Overall, I think Sophie Cunningham's laughing all the way to the bank because whose jerseys are selling the best? My daughter came home from her summer program. Dad, can I have a Sophie Cunningham jersey? Are there any more of her sneakers left? I really want one. But, now she's you think she was interested in this before? Of course not. But Caitlin Clark, who's the current WNBA superstar and Sophie Cunningham's teammate, got the same question. Pretty disappointed by her answer. Now, the noise you're hearing in the background, she is reading off a sheet of paper that was given to her. And one of her teammates, the one who before was, I want to shut down the press conference, at one point slides the paper away from her so she can see what's written on it. So she can see what to say. And Caitlin Clark has to look over at the piece of paper, has to actually look at. You're going to hear it in the background. Listen carefully.
I think for us, it's not really a discussion we really have in our locker room. I think it's for leagues and the governing bodies to work with their athletes to find solutions, but our focus is on basketball, and that's what we talk about and how we can get wins, and obviously we didn't do that tonight, so we need to find an area to improve in that way.
Do you have any, reaction to the...
I just answered for you.
So now she's got a statement prepared for her that her other teammate is like, wait, what does that say? I got to know in case I get the question. Slide it over. You hear it at the beginning? Give another listen.
I think for us, it's not really...
There goes the paper. Right across. I need that real quick in case they ask me the question. I can't think for myself. It's funny Caitlin Clark wouldn't back up Sophie Cunningham. I remember this little interview Caitlin Clark was doing when she was first drafted into the WNBA, and everybody was making such a big deal about her playing.
On one with anybody. Current, not current, who would it be?
That's a fantastic question. Current or not current?
NBA, WNBA.
Well, I would get killed by every NBA player, but Steph Curry.
Hang on. Whoa. You would get killed by every NBA player. I'll tell you what this is going to take. Somebody should just buy a WNBA franchise and put all dudes on the team. You're retired from college basketball, haven't played in 20 years. Come play on our team. We're going to play the WNBA, and that will be the end of this nonsense. It'll be the end of the WNBA, which is a shame. It was founded with the best of intentions. But at this point, their own coaches, your own players, won't stick up for women's sports. You kidding me with this? This is nonsense. Absolute nonsense. And I can't believe it. You have a golden goose like Caitlin Clark, like Sophie Cunningham, who are finally selling tickets to your league that everybody made fun of, that nobody wanted to go see. And now you are actually selling tickets to it. You are selling out stadiums, which has never happened in the history of this game. And yet you are shooting yourselves in the foot. What? Is it jealousy or now it's something else? No, we have to protect the two boys or whatever it is who want to be in the WNBA because they can't hack it in the NBA. You are sticking up more for the boys than for the girls in your own league. It is a win for the patriarchy. And what about the girls like Annalie Wilson and others who lost out on championships and scholarships? You're supposed to be role models for them. And instead, you're hanging them out to dry. That's why Sophie Cunningham is so popular. Crazy stuff. Absolutely crazy. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. Michael Baumgartner, Congressman, will be with us for a fire update. Give you all details when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. Coming up this hour on the most dangerous show on the airwaves, founder of XXXY, Jennifer Sey, will be swinging by to say what it was like at that WNBA game out in Minnesota. Mom Donnie says you need ID to use his grocery stores, and school officials locally were charged. But before we get to any of that, my friends, it is time to take the trip or keep the cash. That's right, my friends. This week, we are giving away your choice of Yellowstone or the Grand Canyon, or $3,000 in cold, hard cash. That's right, my friends. All you have to do is text the word I give you to the number I give you. Do not text your name. Do not text your address. Do not text your phone number. Do not text in Ari Hoffman. You are so good looking and got such great color, and we can see it because you have no hair left anymore. We can see how much color you got up top. Do not text that in, but just text the word itself. Today's word is trout. As in, hey, when you're at these places, maybe you'll go fishing and catch some trout. T-R-O-U-T. Text the word trout. That's T-R-O-U-T. Text it to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757 for your chance to win. Don't forget, you only have until 4:30 to text in that word. If you do it after that, you're just going to clog up my text lines. Make sure you do it before 4:30. We go to the KVI studio line. Take a call from Transit Joe. Transit Joe, what's going on?
What's going on is I really think you should apply to be police chief, and because I heard from Brandy Cruz today that apparently some progressives think that that Mayor Katie Wilson is going to resign from a medical emergency or something.
A medical emergency? Okay, here's what's going to happen. I think Katie Wilson may have, God forbid, you don't want anybody to have ill health or anything like that. I think she's going to have a nervous breakdown. I think she cannot hack the job. She's never had a real job before in her life, and now she's in charge of an entire city, and her entire staff is quitting on her. Here's what else that means. The fact that her staff is quitting on her, usually here's how staff works. They work for somebody, and then until they can leverage up and leverage up and leverage up and leverage up until they're working in the White House or wherever it is. Her staff is quitting on her. That's how bad it is, and they can get away with whatever they want. Appreciate the call, Joe. Appreciate the kind words. Okay. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show? You give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. As you've heard about the disastrous fires wiping out entire neighborhoods over in Spokane, Washington, I want to get the details from the horse's mouth because there are far too many conspiracy theories going on over there. Joining us now to discuss on the KVI studio line, Representative Michael Baumgartner. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Ari. It's great to be on.
So yesterday I saw a great press conference which actually had Democrats, Republicans, looked like everybody was working together. Is that how it actually is on the ground right now regarding the response?
So far, it's been really bipartisan, productive response. You know, I reached out to the White House, spoke with Homeland Security Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen, and then heard from Speaker Johnson this morning, and was pleased that Bob Ferguson had a productive discussion with President Trump. So, you know, that's the kind of thing people want to see, and I was certainly glad to see it.
That's great news. So how bad is it? I mean, the last I checked, I saw 0% containment. I saw the things are still spreading. I saw Representative Jenny Graham's house get completely wiped out. What are we looking at right now?
Well, you know, look, we live in a forested area, so, you know, forest fires are not unusual to us. But what was really so different about this fire was the hot, dry, very windy conditions, and when the fire jumped Spokane River and went from a rural area into that forested neighborhood. And so, yeah, it looks like a bomb went off in that neighborhood. You know, for the time being, we have a little cooler weather today and yesterday, but the challenge is that it's just so dry out here, and we're going to get back up into the high 90s, maybe 100 in a couple days. And, you know, this is not the only fire in eastern Washington. There's fires in 6 counties. And so, yeah, it's just a really bad fire season, and people need to stay aware. We still have a lot of people under level 3 evacuation, which means go now, that can't get to their homes. About 60,000 people had to be evacuated. And of course, you know, they're worried about their belongings. And we've had those people that have seen their fires, their homes burned down, there are even little things like, do they get to vote in Tuesday's election? So we've been trying to help people get access to the auditor's office. So if they want to get a replacement ballot, if they can't get to the House. So just a lot of stuff going on.
We're talking with Representative Michael Baumgartner about the fires out in eastern Washington, especially Spokane. So speaking of those fires, I saw that it said human-caused on one of the sites from one of the response teams. Is that what they're thinking right now? It's just the dry conditions are making this worse? Is it a arson suspected, or is it just it could be chains on a road, or it could be somebody leaving a campfire done? Do they have any idea what caused this?
The short answer is we don't know yet. We asked the fire chief. They said, investigation are ongoing. Obviously, right now all resources have been making sure that people are as safe as can be. So far, there's no reported deaths. I think there's about 12 folks reported missing at the moment. So that situation continues to evolve. But, I'm sure there'll be an investigation. Again, what, the power company has did a series of preemptive shutdowns of power lines. When it gets really windy, sometimes trees fall on those power lines. The power company said that's not what happened here. So obviously everyone's going to want to know what was the cause. And of course, one of the things that we'll need to have, we need to continue to reduce our fuel loads in our forests, because when it is hot and dry like this, if there's a lot of buildup of brush and underleaves and trees, we need to get our fuel loads down. And my father was a professor of forestry for 40 years at Washington State University. My uncle was a smoke jumper. My other uncle was career Forest Service, and I worked for the Forest Service on fire science teams for a couple of years in the summer. None of that makes me an expert in any of this, but I do know a little bit about it. And really, we got to get fuel loads down to get our state forests in a healthier state.
In the last few minutes we have with Representative Michael Baumgartner, who is on the ground out in eastern Washington, seeing the devastation firsthand. So it sounds like you guys have all the resources you need, but if people want to help, because it seems like the feds are doing what they got to do, it seems like locally you have it, it's just so much and it's so dry and it's so hot. If people want to help out, what can they do?
Well, they can donate to the Red Cross for the immediate emergency response, or to Second Harvest Food Bank. And we're going to need a lot of help going forward. Obviously, there's two parts to the federal response, which is there's the immediate emergency and then the longer-term recovery in a two-phase, and it's going to take a lot of resources for all those things. But prayers are the first place I would have folks start. And then, the Eastern Washington community is a proud people and a good people. We've always stepped forward in these times of crisis, but we are going to need help with neighbors and friends helping each other.
Representative Michael Baumgartner, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for the good work you're doing. Thank you so much for being a liaison between the federal government and locally. Really appreciate you bringing us all the updates, and thank you for taking the time out today with all that going on to update our audience.
Thank you, Ari.
Stay safe. Really appreciate your time. I also want to thank our friends, Renewal by Andersen, Western Washington Windows and Doors for Every Home, for sponsoring that Newsmaker segment that we just had there, impromptu from Representative Baumgartner. Really, really happy he could join us today with everything he's got going on. In fact, we have Representative Newhouse joining us tomorrow with more updates on all this, because you heard at KVI News, this is a top story nationally right now about how bad these wildfires are, and we want to make sure we're bringing you all the information. Me personally, I want to know about what caused this. So we could talk about what may have made this worse, for example, bad forest management and such. Do you think the Seattle Times is going to change their endorsement list? I mean, a whole bunch of people can't vote now to vote out the people who deal with this stuff, who do a terrible job of bad forest management. Maybe we should get more fools into the legislature who are going to vote more taxes, just because that'll fix what's going on, right? The taxes will fix everything. So our friend Steve Gordon was actually posting about the Seattle Times endorsements, and he pointed to an article by Kate Riley, who's the Times editorial page editor. It used to be that people would always say, Ari, I just take the stranger and I vote the opposite. That's what I do if I'm a conservative in Washington. I vote the opposite. The problem is there's too many races with too many candidates where if you vote the opposite, you're still voting for crazy. I know. I should have done this sooner, but I filled out my ballot today. It's actually sitting on my desk right over there. I'm going to drop it in Dropbox on my way home. I will do that. But I filled out my ballot today. And you know how many races I had no candidate to vote for in? None. Zero. Zilch. 5 races I voted for Jimothy. 5. That is how bad it is. Usually I vote for my dead grandfather because I think he'll do a better job. He's still smarter than half these people. Look, Katie Wilson, I think the raccoon would do a better job. Put that raccoon in City Hall. Oh, he's running down the stairs. What do you think that means? Let's follow him out of the building. Cool. If everybody follows him out of the building, they can't make as much trouble anymore. Yes, the handy-capable raccoon would be more qualified to be mayor of Seattle than Katie Wilson. But you look at a lot of these races, you don't have anybody to vote for. And the Seattle Times, by the way, the Seattle Times did this whole mea culpa, about how they were going to be better about their endorsements. And then when you actually read the article, you go, then how come you're not better about your endorsements? So this was written in June, and this was written by Kate Riley for the Seattle Times. Here's how the Seattle Times is doing endorsements a little bit differently. Readers don't hold back in their criticism of the Times editorial pages. We can agree to disagree, but there's one theme of criticism that lands with a punch, fueled by the truth. Over the last couple of legislative sessions, the Times editorial board has been very critical of the legislature's spendthrift ways. Though through irresponsible decision-making, the Democrat-controlled legislature has established a habit of perpetual budget deficits, despite growth and a fairly stable economy. And these decisions attracted a negative outlook from two bond rating agencies that could imperil the state's AAA bond rating. More than a handful of readers over the last 2 years wrote praising our critical editorials, but then leveled the gut-punch indictment. You endorsed all of them. Ouch, she writes. That is true. Not proud of it. Recently retired Times publisher Frank Blevin often would say incumbents should have to hurdle a higher bar than challengers to receive a Times endorsement. Makes sense, but with the increasingly rare qualified Republicans challenging incumbent Democrats, that has become harder to do. So the Times editorial board has been rethinking how we do endorsements. Stop. I'm going to tell you, you are lying right there. You guys called out all the problems with Bob Ferguson in your endorsement of Bob Ferguson. You endorsed him anyway, and Blevins, who may have that line that he uses, didn't listen to his own line. You had Dave Reichert. You had a good candidate right there. Instead, you went with the guy but listed all of his problems? What, that'll make you feel better about it? Because now we're admitting he has problems and maybe he'll actually address them? No. You guys endorsed all these fools. So, you say you're going to do your endorsements better this time. There are lots of qualified Republicans running, not necessarily in King County, but there are a lot of qualified Republicans who are running in Washington State. I see no endorsements of Republicans in any race. In fact, you know what you guys did, which is worse? For the Supreme Court justices, you guys put up the Bob Ferguson political appointee hacks. You endorsed them. There is no difference between a bunch of these races of the endorsements in the Seattle Times and the endorsements in the Seattle Stranger. You guys are in sync, like that boy band. You guys are doing the exact same thing because you're all a bunch of leftist activists that even though you claim, oh, we're being responsible, we're being good stewards, and we're being journalistic integrity, blah, blah, blah. Shut up. You know how I know you're full of it? The editors, the editorial board, assigns the stories that the writers write for the Seattle Times. If you read any issue of the Seattle Times, do they lean right or left? Which one do you think if you read them today? You know how they lean. For the left, you know, I went to a Democrat meeting years ago, and one of the speakers, mentioned the Seattle Times, and the whole room boos. And you know what I laughed about? They're not left enough for the left. And this was back in 2018, 2019. They're not left enough for the left. So they hate him also. So how's that going for you guys? You getting more subscribers or less subscribers? In fact, now, this is the fourth op-ed in the Wall Street Journal calling out the Democrats locally for their horrible policies. And in fact, this time they're going after the Democrats for trying to stop the initiative process, for doing everything they can to hinder the initiative process, while citizens are trying to have their voice heard. I'm going to say this for the billionth time, because I said this to some people at synagogue this weekend who would come up to me and say, "Oh, I'm so mad at the Seattle Times. Did you see what they wrote?" I go, "No, because I don't subscribe to them." "Oh, Ari, well, my wife likes a crossword, or I like the comics." I said, "No, you are funding the people who are endorsing the crazy. If you have had enough with the bad policies around here, unsubscribe from the Seattle Times right now. In fact, if you send me a screenshot of you unsubscribing from the Seattle Times, you can prove it. I will give you a shout out on air today. You can email me the screenshot, ari@kvi.com. That's ari@kvi.com. And when they ask for a reason why you are unsubscribing, say because your Seattle Times editorial board said they were going to do things differently this year when it came to endorsements, and you did the exact same thing. The exact same thing you always do. The only difference is they're finally against a tax. Normally they support every tax in the world. They're against the library levy, as well they should be. As well they should be. Seattle Times is absolute garbage. Now, if you want to have my list, I will tell you, I don't endorse in every race. There are so many races. Some of you have reached out to me and said, "Hey, Ari, what do I do in this race? What do I do in that race?" Some of them I have time to research. Some of them I don't know enough to research. I like to pretend I'm all knowing. But guys, there are some races where you know it better than I do. You can go on your county GOP. You can see who they endorse. But I will tell you this. My endorsement list is up at kvi.com. That's kvi.com. You can text me the word vote. If you text the word vote, VOTE, to 206-421-5757, that's 206-421-5757, you are not entered in the contest. I will send you my voter's guide. But I need you to get those ballots in, especially to vote no on the library tax for Seattle, which is just going to fund more of Homeless Inc. Oh, and a bunch of DEI craziness. That's it. So if you text the word vote to 206-421-5757, that's 206-421-5757, I will send you my voter's guide. Or you can go to kvi.com right now. It's right on the main page. And yes, I will be updating it after the primary based on who wins, based on who loses, and I will try to get to every single race if I can. I will get you as much as we possibly can because we've never gotten so many emails before. This thing is like overloading my inbox with people having questions about the voter's guide. We see how seriously you guys take it. We want to put in the effort for you guys. And I don't see a comprehensive list everywhere for the GOP, for conservatives, for mainstream Democrats, for mainstream Republicans of a voter's guide. I explain my choices too in my voter's guide. And unfortunately, there's far too many races where I'm riding Jimothy, because there's too many races where there's just no qualified candidates, just none. And that breaks my heart because then you're just handing over the team. You're handing over the game to the other team. And can you imagine if the Seahawks took the field with 5 players? How many games do you think they would win with 5 players? That's what's happening right now. We're so busy trying to keep what we have that unfortunately we're losing in too many other easily won districts. Too many easily won districts. So remember, you can go to kvi.com right now. You can text me the word vote to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. And I will send you my voter's guide, which is right up at the top of kvi.com. You can find it right up there. Up next, my friends, lots more to discuss as the show rolls around. School officials finally getting charged for not reporting to authorities the alleged sexual assault of a female wrestler by a boy who was identifying as a girl in a teenage wrestling match. Give you the entire deal when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. 2 Puyallup school district officials have been charged with gross misdemeanors for allegedly failing to report a Rogers High School wrestler's claim that she was sexually assaulted during a girls' wrestling match by her biological male opponent, who identified as transgender. You remember this case. We've talked about it a lot. According to court records, Rogers High School principal Jason Smith, 55, and athletic coordinator Peter Collins, 49, were each charged July 21st in Pierce County District Court with failure to comply with Washington's mandatory reporting law. Let me explain something, guys. Even if you think the case has no merit, you have to investigate claims that serious. I know this because I used to work with teenagers. Teenagers say some crazy things, but sometimes they're telling the truth about the crazy things. And you got to find out if they're telling the truth or not. And you have to investigate them. Now, in this case, there was video of it. In this case, there are witnesses. In this case, there's a lot of evidence about what happened. So, why didn't you guys investigate it? The charges stem from allegations made by Kayla Keeler, who said she was sexually assaulted during a December 6, 2025 girls wrestling match against a biological male competitor at an Emerald Ridge High School tournament. Keeler and her family have maintained they reported the alleged assault to school officials immediately after the match, but law enforcement was not contacted for 53 days. Despite Washington law requiring school employees to promptly report suspected child abuse or sexual abuse. When did they actually contact them? After Brandy Cruz reached out for comment. Then after I reached out for comment. Then after everybody started reaching out for comment, then they said, you know what, we should really CYA on this one, cover our you-know-whats. And then we should report. That's not how this works. I also want to remind you, Democrats in the Washington State Legislature this last session were trying to push a bill that would give schools more time to corral the horses before telling parents that something may have happened to their kids. The charges come weeks after Pierce County prosecutors declined to file criminal charges against a trans athlete accused of assaulting Keeler. Now, what's crazy to me is that they just dropped the whole thing. Yep, no repercussions to this whatsoever. In a memorandum explaining that decision, prosecutors concluded they could not prove a charge of third-degree rape beyond a reasonable doubt because of Washington case law involving consent in athletic contests. Prosecutors acknowledged there was no doubt Keeler did not want what happened to happen. I'm not going to get into the details on the show. But if you say there's no doubt they didn't want this to happen and it shouldn't happen in the move, then why are we not prosecuting? We litigated that at the time. Keeler and her mother have separately filed a federal lawsuit against the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association, the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction, Superintendent Chris Rakedahl, the Puyallup School District, and other school officials, alleging Washington policies of allowing biological males to compete in girls' sports led directly to the incident, which it did. The lawsuit alleges Keeler was never told before the match that she would be wrestling a biological male. Okay, I don't want biological men in women's sports. But if you're going to have them in women's sports in Washington State, you should at least give the girl the opportunity to opt out. But they don't believe in doing that here. They're treating them just like they're girls. They are not girls. They are boys who can't win at boys' sports. They are boys who are going through mental things that need help. They do need help. This is not helping them. This is affirming their mental problems. According to Kate Anderson, senior counsel with the Alliance Defending Freedom, Keeler's attorneys are seeking more than damages. She previously told us she wants to ensure that she can participate in the sport that she loves without fear that this kind of thing is going to happen again. She wants to make sure the same thing is true for other girls. And don't forget, the season is restarting soon. Anderson said Keeler has wrestled since she was 4 years old, still hopes to compete again, but has not been guaranteed she won't be matched against a biological male athlete. Her only recourse would be to figure it out herself and forfeit before she walks out onto the mat. That's not fair for her or any girl in the state. It's not. Like, for example, my niece's volleyball team had a question about one of their opponents. Is that just a rather manly-looking woman, or is that a man-man? And now you have the girls in an awkward position. Do they call out another girl, and now you just call that other girl ugly as if girls don't have enough self-esteem issues? Or do they have a real issue here? So now you're putting it on the teenage girls to figure out. And teenage girls, they are catty. They are mean. Okay? I know. So now you're making the girls decide this because you guys are too chicken to deal with this problem the way it should be dealt with? The amount of men who are cowards in this situation is beyond belief to me. Don't forget, in the postseason, after the allegations became public, the biological male wrestler accused by Keeler voluntarily withdrew from the Washington State Girls Wrestling Championships, which is the first smart decision they've made. His place on the tournament bracket was subsequently awarded to a female athlete as well. It should have been from the beginning. Never should have been his place. Let's not forget, earlier this year, the U.S. Department of Education opened a Title IX investigation into the Puyallup School District. Federal officials said they are investigating whether the district violated Title IX by allowing biological males to compete in girls' sports, permitting biological males to access girls' locker rooms, and failing to adequately respond to allegations of sexual assault. Let's not forget, my friends, the initiative is going to be on the ballot for the general election. I know a lot of you keep reaching out and asking, all right, we got all these signatures. When are we actually going to see it? It's on the November ballot, which means it'll be hitting your mailboxes sometimes at the end of September, beginning of October. And you got to get this thing in so things like this don't happen to girls like Kayla Keeler anymore. You got to make sure they don't happen. This is exactly the nightmare scenario we've been talking about. What happens if it's football? What happens if it's wrestling? What happens if it's boxing? What happens if it's MMA? What happens if it's kickboxing? What happens if it's a physical sport? Now you're seeing exactly what it is. Now I hope more officials who are hiding these kind of things face charges. Let's not forget, this is months after Longview Public School Superintendent Karen Cloninger was arrested and charged with felony witness tampering, failure to report child abuse, and obstructing law enforcement in connection with allegations that district officials failed to promptly report student sexual assault claims at Mark Morris High School. Prosecutors allege that Longview administrators attempted to handle the allegations internally rather than immediately notifying law enforcement. If you notify law enforcement, 1, you're covered. But 2, then if they don't find anything, you can go to the parents and say, they didn't find anything. Maybe we have a different problem here. There's nothing wrong with going to law enforcement. It's not a black mark on your record. It's the responsible and legally required thing to do. Speaking of girls' sports, by the way, up next, our friend Jennifer Sey, former Olympian and founder of XXXY Athletics, will be joining us to tell us what happened in Minnesota at the Fever game this weekend when things got a little out of hand. Tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. It looks like the disaster that the WNBA has become has gone national now. We thought it was just Seattle, but no. Sophie Cunningham, a player in the Women's National Basketball Association, daring to say that it should just be for women, is apparently so controversial that now there are protesters showing up everywhere, either to support her or, it looks like more and more, to be opposed to her, which makes me wonder why they're fans of the WNBA at all. And they make fun of me about that. Joining us now to discuss on the KVI studio line, Jennifer Sey, who is the founder of XXXY Athletics and former Olympian. Thank you so much for being with us today. Really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Ari.
Such a pleasure. Now, you decide to head on out to Minneapolis for the Fever's last stop. We thought it was nuts here in Seattle. Tell us what happened on the ground there.
Yeah, this was their last stop, as in yesterday. There's a lot more, and we're going there too. So let me be clear about that. I knew we had a moment here when Brandy Cruz told me about the Seattle event. I knew we had a moment. I knew Sophie was the athlete we've been waiting for. Like, she's the full package, right? She's staunch, she's got a backbone, she's funny, she's doesn't take herself too seriously, she's fun to watch, she's all the things. And I just knew, because what we need is cultural ignition. We need something to happen that makes the 80% of us that have common sense and know women's sports are for women to feel comfortable saying it out loud. That's what I've been pushing for the brand. I've been waiting for a pro athlete to speak up. She's the only active pro athlete right now that's speaking up, and she did it just, in this ESPN article a few weeks ago. So there was a rally in Seattle that had some controversy. Portland seemed to be relatively smooth running. I don't think any team wants the situation that they had with the Storm, where the co-owner berated and belittled a 16-year-old. So I decided to plan one in Minneapolis. I was there yesterday. Here's what I'll say. We outnumbered the other side at least 10-1 at the rally, which is my understanding in Seattle as well, but we had a lot more people here. We came in peace and love. We had balloons and we gave out T-shirts, and people were hugging and getting pictures with the Sophie cutout. And the other side was complete lunacy, calling us C words and B words. It was mostly women. This is the kind and tolerant left, calling us all C words and holding a sign over every woman's head with that word on it. Anytime we talked, this disgusting man with a megaphone would blast his megaphone in our ears, calling us those terrible names. I don't know who wants to be associated with that. Like, if that's their best foot forward to convince you to join their team, they are going to lose.
Yeah.
They're going to lose.
Yeah, absolutely they are. And also, they're a women's basketball league. That should be off limits to men. It's literally a women's basketball league. I mean, we all use the analogy. If LeBron James decided to all of a sudden play, none of these girls would have careers. I was a little disappointed, actually, yesterday, where Caitlin Clark got the question. And it seemed to me, she was reading off a piece of paper of something that was prepared for her. And one of her teammates seemed to slide it across the table to look at it, kind of taking it away from her while she was reading it. Were you as disappointed as I was by that?
I'm going to say this. I'm of a little bit two minds on this. Clearly, the league has locked in, and the coaches are all reading from the same talking points. They're all saying exclusion is never the answer. Well, actually, in fact, the WNBA is all about exclusion. There should be no men. It's got women's in the title. But guess what else? Less than 1% of college players make the WNBA. So exclusion is the rule. It's all about exclusion. Not everyone gets to play. I don't get to play. I'm 5'2.5". I'm not going to be in the WNBA. So their whole talking point is so stupid, but they're desperate because our side, we're unleashed and we're confident now because we're not standing alone. But they're all issuing these dumb talking points. Here's what I'll say about Caitlin. She's already hated by the other players. She's already battling that. She's already getting, punched in the throat all the time. I feel for her. Does she need to be punched in the throat more? I mean, I get that she's in do I wish she would say, yes, of course, this league is just for women, but I don't disagree with her point that the commissioner And the coaches and the presidents and CEOs of these teams should be the ones really taking the lead here. I wish she would, but I also feel like she's got a lot on her plate already in terms of how much every player in the league hates her and goes after her. I
Yeah.
don't know. I have some empathy for that. You know what I mean? Like, it's tough out there. She's getting her ass kicked. I don't know if I can say that here, but anyway.
Clean it up in post, as we say. We're talking
Yeah.
with Jennifer Sey, who's the founder of XXXY Athletics. Now, pivoting back to the ownership for a second, let's look at you for a minute. You're a business owner. If something's going to affect your brand, you don't want it affecting your brand. Your brand has been very successful in the wake of all this because you guys are advocating for women's sports. I literally bought a T-shirt for myself. I bought a T-shirt for my daughter. I have one complaint about your brand you need to fix. One complaint. The one that says, Girl Dad Here. That one.
Okay.
Right on the breast pocket. I need a black version of that. That is my only complaint. You just had gray.
Okay.
But other than that,
Okay.
I bought a couple T-shirts. It was great. Sophie Cunningham, Adidas sold out the sneaker line. Sold it out completely.
Yeah.
You guys are doing well. Clearly, the consumer is on the side of this. Wherever Sophie Clark goes, they sell out games. And meanwhile, the Storm, when they have games around here, I don't even know they have games.
No one goes.
They're 2 blocks away from my studio. I don't even know they're there.
Hey, I have to just tell you, I was at the game yesterday. So after the crazy rally, I went to the game with Riley and we sat right on the floor. We were 3 rows, literally on the court. It was packed. This is the first WNBA game I've ever been to. I've been to many NBA games. It was at the Target Center, which is the main, it's not like a smaller stadium. It's where the dudes play too. It was packed. I have to believe that's because it was the Fever. I mean, I cannot imagine that stadium has been packed in past years, at least. It's women's basketball is having a moment. People want to see Caitlin. People want to see Sophie now. We know that the ratings for Fever games are way higher than games they don't play. We know the ticket sales for Fever games are way higher. So these young women are leading this league out of non-profitability, and it's so great to see.
Yeah, and it's crazy to me that some of the ownership in this league are not saying, "Hey, let's embrace this. Let's move forward with it. Let's do more with it." Yeah.
It's business malpractice.
It really, really is. Just before we let you go, so Riley Gaines came to join you, and I saw you were talking to a certain writer of a certain wizarding book on social media. Do you have anybody else possibly joining you for future games? Do you plan on going to future games? What does it look like right now?
I issued an open invite to J.K. Rowling to join me, which I think is probably unlikely, but wouldn't that be a spectacle? We've got 3 more. We're planning more rallies outside and attending inside. We want Sophie to know she's supported. We want Annalie Wilson to know she's supported. So many women have been fighting this battle for years and they felt alone and they're not alone anymore. And we want them to know that. So we're going to go to as many games as we can and cheer for Sophie, and we'll do it with security.
And I'll tell you something else. Dads who are out there, the women need our support in this. Head on over to XXXY Athletics. They have clothing for men. They have shirts for dads. I just picked up some. Got one for my daughter as well. Show your daughters, show your wives, show your sisters, show your mother you support women's sports. Jennifer Sey, thank you so much for all you're doing. Thank you so much for bringing more attention to this. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Can I tell you one quick thing, Ari, about
Absolutely.
the dads? They're leading in. Our sales have been blowing up in the last week, and the number 1 item is our men's logo tee. The dads are ready. We've been waiting for you. Thank you.
I love that. That's amazing. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. Jennifer Sey, thank you so much. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, your ballot for the primary is due tomorrow. And a reminder of my threat that I will be very, very serious about. You don't get to complain if you don't vote. So I'm going to ask you, starting tomorrow, if you got your ballot in. And if the answer is no, you're going to get hung up on. That is what we're not even going to call screen it. We are going to embarrass you for that. So if you're planning on calling the show, you're like, Ari, my vote doesn't matter because of that. No, I don't care. That means you are part of the problem. Your ballots are due tomorrow. Get your ballots in. My voter guide is up at kvi.com. You can head on over there right now. You have no excuses. My voter's guide has gotten such attention that a reporter from KUOW reached out to talk about my voter's guide. Haven't seen an article yet. I wonder if it's a little bit too good. Maybe that's why. Who knows? We'll see what's going on. Anywho, we missed a story on Friday, this massive invasion happening in Spain, where 60,000 military-aged males of Muslim persuasion decide to swim into that country. Now, here's why I find this entertaining. The current leadership of Spain is very, very much for open borders. So this part of Spain has about 80,000 people in it, and they got overwhelmed with 60,000 people. Now, what's crazy is they're wearing, like, floaties that they bought it. Well, they don't have Walmart, but they bought it, their version of Walmart. They're wearing little floaties. They have little tires, and they're just going across because for them, it's illegal immigration if you come across land, but not if you come across water. So they're basically swimming around this fence out there, this human flood of people. And as soon as they came across all these politicians in Spain who are so in favor of open borders, now all of a sudden they don't like open borders so much. No. 60,000, that's far too many. Now they're deploying their military to the North African enclave of Ceuta? I have to figure out how to pronounce that. After thousands of migrants overwhelmed the territory's border with Morocco, prompting a major security response as officials confirmed at least 9 people died during the crossings. The Spanish government said the armed forces will support the civil guard in restoring order after local officials warned the city can no longer handle the influx. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez and Interior Minister Fernando Grande Marlaska are expected to visit the place as Madrid scrambles to contain the crisis. This is what happens with open borders. Exactly what happened. In fact, the president weighed in on this earlier today.
We have to be very careful with the whole socialist thing. I think in many cases it's much more than socialist. They skipped socialism. They went directly to communism. But when I saw what happened in Spain, I said, we had a version of that. You could say much worse. We allowed 25 million people under Joe Biden, the Democrats. We had open borders, and countries all over the world, almost all of them, sent people that they don't want into our country. And we've gotten a lot of them out, and we're getting more, including murders. And I always said 11,888. That was the number of murders. Many of them committed more than one murder. And we're going to be just like that if you put these lunatics in that I see running for office. We had an open border a year and a half ago. We had the worst border in the history of our country. Now we have the best border. We haven't had one person come in, and this is done by the Democrats, not by left-leaning people. They do charts. And they have, in 15 months, not one person has come in through our southern border illegally. Now, that's pretty amazing. I'd say maybe 10, maybe 15. They say none. And believe me, if they did, they'd love to report it. But you could go outside in those vast plazas where hundreds of thousands of people gathered when they stormed our country, just like they did, in my opinion, worse, just like they did to Spain. They stormed our country. And those borders are, those big plazas that were built, they put concrete down. And now you look at them, and there's grass growing in the cracks. Nobody comes up because they know they're not going to get through. And if they do get through, they're going to be taken out, brought back to their country. So we've done a fantastic job. Somebody said you did it too fast. I did it in 30 days, my first 30 days. Biden couldn't do it. He couldn't get it done. He tried at the end. He tried to do something because it was so overwhelming. It was so bad politically.
You remember how bad it was? You remember Bill Malugin's videos, the drone footage from the border, the waves of people, tens of thousands coming across the border? It was an invasion. When 10 million people come across your border, that's not illegal immigration. That is an invasion. When 60,000 military-aged males come into a town of 80,000 people, what would you call that? Now, I do love how the left is with this. No, we shouldn't have voter ID. We shouldn't do that. We shouldn't check these things. We should have illegal immigration. Zoran Mamdani was given a little presser about his grocery stores today, and I kind of wonder this. So if I go to New York to visit, do I get to shop at the discounted grocery stores? Do I get the free stuff from Mamdani's grocery stores? Turns out, guess what you need to shop at Mamdani's grocery stores? ID.
How are you going to keep people from taking advantage of that, that deal, basically? And is there going to be a limit on the number of items that someone can take that are discounted at that level from that essential basket?
So our RFP makes very clear that this is a program for New Yorkers to be able to put food on the table, not a program for people to be able to make a quick buck through reselling. I'm going to pass it over to our EDC head, G-Pack, to add some additional details.
Yes, if you look at our RFP for the operator, we are looking to make sure that we target New Yorkers, whether it be at sort of a library card-esque thing, and also we manage who.
Whoa, library card-esque thing? Sounds a lot like ID to me to get Mamdani's free groceries. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends, including the latest on the wildfires out in eastern Washington. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show's final hour free for all. Your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. Coming up this hour, the Seattle Police Department chief gets a massive settlement, and it looks like Katie Wilson in trouble again for more scandal. You think she's actually going to make it to the end of her term? But before we get to any of that, my friends, over on the text line, a lot of people want to weigh in on Zoran Mamdani's grocery store needing ID. Robin Lakewood says, Mamdani's Groceries, show me your papers. Yes, exactly right. He's a little too familiar with that. Forrest Cat says, Ari, how would the New York City-owned discount grocery stores know if one customer just passes their library card on to someone else unless it has a photo or ask for a confirming ID at the register? You know what? I think it's a lot like this place called Olive Garden. You know Olive Garden? They have the unlimited pasta pass. They have the pasta pass you guys get there at Olive Garden. And apparently they need photo ID for it as well. So I guess Zoran Mamdani's grocery store is going to work the same way, right?
Well, but also maybe it's like when we used to rent video cassettes back in the day.
Yes.
Oftentimes you had a unique PIN associated with it or a little barcode that they would scan on there.
Yeah.
That way, if, Blaine Beecham decides to use my card, he couldn't get away with it, right? Because it was like, well, that doesn't quite work either.
So there is nobody named Blaine Beecham who's using your card, right? That's a fake name. This isn't something you're still triggered by years later, right? Yeah, I can tell. There's no issue here. Let's be real. Most of us, for our Blockbuster cards, we didn't have our own Blockbuster cards.
I know.
You got mom and dad's Blockbuster card. And the only time this became a problem is when you accidentally may have left a VHS copy of Pushing Tin in the back seat of your car and forgotten to return it for like 3 weeks. Yeah, that was
I thought you were going to say it melted because of the heat. That's the other thing, too.
Well, I don't know if it melted. I know I got it back, and thankfully it was kind of sort of popular at the time, so who knows? But no, I think it was $100 in late fees I had on that sucker. $100. That's no small chunk of change. Even now, it's no small chunk of change for a kid. Yeah, I forgot to return that stupid movie, which wasn't even good. And it's not like I watched it more than once. It was literally just sitting in the trunk of my car.
If I'm not mistaken, Billy Bob Thornton and John Cusack who are working,
and a lot of Angelina Jolie.
They're what are they? They're plane
air traffic
controllers.
Yes,
it's called Pushing Tin.
I only remember the stupid movie because Angelina Jolie and because it cost me $100.
Wow.
In rental fees. Wow. Yeah, so that must have been more than 3 weeks at that point. That must have been like 6 months or something of rental fees. But yes, because I had somebody else's ID linked to that, one of my parents. Meanwhile, switching gears over to the latest with the wildfires in eastern Washington. So far, 700 structures have been destroyed, which includes a lot of houses, entire neighborhoods. Have you seen the video? It looks like something out of the opening of Terminator 2, where there's just a fire and the destroyed playground. Even the playground's not left anymore. It's horrific. 65,000 people have been evacuated. So far, there are no fatalities, but 12 people are missing, and we hope they're found. We would hate to find out that there are fatalities as well as all this property damage. Now, the good news is the local authorities seem to be working well with the federal authorities. This is actually really good news. In fact, you remember during the flooding that the White House and Washington's Governor Bob Ferguson weren't getting along so well. Well, now it seems like Bob Ferguson was filled with praise for the federal response. Give a listen. This is Bob Ferguson at a presser yesterday.
I will just say I can't speak to the past. I wasn't governor then. But what I can say is I deeply appreciate the president taking time. I think I requested a conversation. I'm losing track of the hours here today, but just a few hours ago. And I was on the phone with him literally a couple hours later. And I had the clear sense he understood what was going on. I had the clear sense he'd been briefed on what was going on. He was knowledgeable about the situation. And I appreciated that.
Well, I think we know why. We think we know Representative Michael Baumgartner said he's been talking with Mark Wayne Mullen, who's the Secretary of Department of Homeland Security. So don't forget that Department of Homeland Security runs FEMA. And so it seems like they're getting everything they need. Here's Representative Michael Baumgartner.
Well, thank you, everyone. Indeed, this is a devastating fire. We know that hundreds, if not thousands, are in a very sad and scary place right now. I want to echo the comments thanking our first responders for what you're doing for our community. Indeed, this is an unprecedented catastrophe for the Spokane area, but I think we're going to see unprecedented collaboration in responding to this fire. I want to thank Mayor Brown, Senator Cantwell, Governor Ferguson, and everyone here working on this issue. This is not Republicans and Democrats are seeing before you. This is concerned elected officials. They're going to do what's right for this community. I did speak to Homeland Security Secretary Markwayne Mullen earlier today. We have a good personal rapport, and I think he is someone that knows Spokane. He's spent some time here in Spokane, and I know he will be supporting us in this. We have, as you heard from the governor, he has, after receiving the needed information from the partners behind us, he has made the initial request. We appreciate that very much. And I am optimistic, very optimistic, that there will be additional support from FEMA. It's certainly a good precedent for our state that we were successful in that process with the terrible flooding on the west side of the state. And so we will monitor and support that process as it goes forward. But I will just also add, and others will go into deeper detail, while we will do everything we can to get support from the federal government, the key point for support here is from our neighbors and our communities and our friends and families. There are going to be ways the city will be telling you that you can support, the people of Spokane area can support, and we're going to need that. So thanks, everyone. Be safe. Doesn't look like the weather's getting a lot better for the next week to 10 days. It's still going to be dry, so we need to continue to have people be alert and follow the emergency management systems.
In fact, the weather's going to be a lot worse. They're talking about 100-degree temperatures this week, and now you have all that smoke coming over here to western Washington as well, which means air quality issues. The last time something like this happened, I had to take all these kind of drugs to get all the stuff out of my lungs because there was so much in it. I was working outside at the time. We are going to be having air quality alerts, which are now coming over to our side. They're already active for Seattle. I'm looking out over the water right now. I can't see the mountains. That is not just heat haze that's over there. We're watching the smoke come in. Last night when I saw the sun setting, it was already starting. This is going to get a lot worse for everybody in Washington State. You're going to see the heat, which is expected to peak, according to Como News, around Wednesday and Thursday, just before cooler Pacific air returns later that week. Now, even though it's all staying in one place, when the wind comes to push out the smoke, that means the wind is also fueling the fires. They are 0% contained right now. This is really, really bad. So this is the problem we're going to be having right now. Firefighters are going to be working really, really hard to put out those fires as fast as they can. Hey, wouldn't it be nice if they had some things to mitigate the effects of these fires? I don't know, like a giant 747 that could drop water on these. Oh, right. Jay Inslee, shut that down. Not going to get that. Oh, speaking of retired Emperor Inslee. So Jay Inslee posted this earlier today. He wants to be in on thanking the firefighters. So he posted this. Thousands of firefighters and first responders are risking everything right now, facing unprecedented firestorms. They're standing between disaster and everything we call home. They deserve our gratitude all year, not just during fire season. Thank you. So here's the problem with that. Jay, Bubby, didn't you fire like 1,000 firefighters? Didn't you terminate a whole bunch of first responders, including hundreds of firefighters during your COVID insanity? The COVID insanity, which we found out from Fauci's diary, you were following Fauci and he had no science for. None whatsoever. Wouldn't it be nice to have a few extra firefighters around right now, especially when you have these big problems? A few extra first responders. They transferred out of state. They got fired and left. All because of your insane vax mandate. Can Jay Inslee just go away? Can Jay Inslee just go away? It's like every time there's a natural disaster, Jay Inslee comes running out going, it's climate change. It's climate change. In fact, here's the video he released yesterday.
It's a beautiful morning here in Lopez Island, but I'm so concerned. Talked to my friend, a legislator in Spokane, whose home he had to evacuate because of these massive fires in Spokane County. The whole state's under threat now, climate change. You know, climate change isn't some existential global thing. It's our neighbors, it's our friends. We had to fight for them.
Okay. There's one little problem there, Jay. You think this whole thing is caused by firefighters? Excuse me. I have some papers here. We got to check right here of updates from I see. The Northwest Coordination Center, they're the guys who are dealing with all this. They're the ones who are responding to all of it. They're coordinating everything. They said this morning, quote, the origins of the fires were human, as in not caused by lightning or another natural source. Wrong again, Jay Inslee. I feel like that teacher in The Water Boy. Well, mama's wrong again. You're wrong, Jay. I don't think Jay's going to come tackle me. I don't think that's going to happen. Wrong again, Jay. Not climate change, human cause. Now, human cause doesn't mean arson. Let me correct that right now. There are a whole bunch of things I've seen online where a lot of people are talking about how the homeless in Spokane keep lighting fires in wooded areas. We don't have any videos showing that's because of this yet. We have reports of homeless people lighting fires. I had some firefighters even send them to me, but they're dated after these fires. Are they fire bugs? Are they copycats? Are they just homeless being homeless? We don't know. Man caused doesn't necessarily mean somebody lit a fire. It could mean somebody threw a cigarette into dry brush. It could mean somebody didn't secure the chains on their truck and they threw up sparks. It could mean somebody lit a fire and didn't put out their campfire correctly. It could mean somebody lit off a firework or something. Man-caused means somebody did this. Now, I did have a talk with the information person over at the Northwest Coordination Center when I called asking for more information about this, and they didn't have the information yet because that's the stuff they're getting from the guys on the scene. So they're just giving reports as quickly as they get them. So they don't have all the details yet on why they're saying it's a man-caused, human-caused. But that means somebody out in the field thinks it's human-caused, and I wonder what they have to show. Now, mind you, we're probably not going to find out a lot about this stuff until maybe a week from now. Right now, 0% containment on those fires. So you know what that means? I just had a relative from New York message the family chat, and they were wondering how bad it is really. Do you know what we're likely to see this week? Do you guys remember the last time this happened? When in the air, it smelled like a campfire no matter where you went. You felt it in your lungs. It was so heavy. So heavy. I remember we didn't want the kids outside the last time this happened, so we actually stayed inside. Kids were getting a little stir crazy, so we filmed a video about my son. We called it Izzy Hoffman's Day Off. We filmed Ferris Bueller for going back to school. We did shot for shot, well, not shot for shot, whatever we could do on our cell phones. It's kind of funny. Kevin, I don't think I've ever shown it to you. It's actually kind of funny now that you know my kids. It's even funnier. You're going to be like, whoa, they're even tinier than I remember, those little guys. Yeah. My Chargers, of course, the fun car. It's the Ferrari. We had a lot of fun with that. In fact, I can't post a video to social media anymore. You know why? It looks like my son's driving the car, and he keeps getting flagged as a minor doing something illegal with a vehicle, and it keeps getting taken down. And never mind my YouTube page, which is always taken down. But yeah, we have this fun video because we were trapped in the house for days on end. We made this video. Now, mind you, if you do want to blame this on climate change, Jay Inslee, okay, didn't you pass the Climate Commitment Act, which was supposed to mitigate the effects of climate change, especially wildfires and flooding? Well, we had flooding earlier this year, and we got wildfires now. I don't think your mitigation is helping. Look, floods happen. Wildfires happen. It's how you deal with them. Us Americans are used to adapting and developing technology. Oh, technology. Wouldn't it be nice if we had a plane that could drop all the water on this? Oh, wait a minute. you discontinued the 747 program, which used to have these big firefighting airplanes that would drop a huge amount of water on top of the, well, we don't have that no more, do we? Couldn't help but thinking during Seafair, when they had that World War II vintage airplane they were flying around that's supposed to help fight fires, couldn't help to myself, maybe we should send that sucker out. It sounds pretty bad over there in eastern Washington. Representative Jenny Graham reached out on Saturday night when I posted a video. Somebody had sent me this video. I actually intentionally muted it. If you've seen it on my social media channels, Ari Hoffman Official on Facebook and Instagram, The Hofffather over on X. It's intentionally muted because you hear private information in the back because they're dealing with a disaster. So it is on mute. That is not a mistake. But Representative Jenny Graham saw this video, which, like I said, looks like the beginning of Terminator 2, where you just see the fires everywhere and the empty playgrounds. And there's not even the playgrounds left. Houses, entire neighborhoods completely gone. And she reached out and she said, that's my neighborhood. I lost my house. That's my neighborhood. I lost my house. She said the only thing left of her house is her American flag on a flagpole. That's it. The picture is eerie, really eerie. All it would have taken was one spark for the flag to go up. Her entire house is gone behind it. She sent me a picture. The entire house is gone, but the flag is still there. A little inspirational, a little morbid, but it's still there. She lost her entire house. Representative Jenny Graham, she's always fighting for us. Lost her entire house, but so did her neighbors. The entire neighborhood destroyed, and that's just one of many neighborhoods that are completely destroyed. And Jay Inslee wants to talk about climate change? Okay, Jay, what did you do to mitigate forest fires? Because the last time I checked, your Department of Natural Resources, all they did was shut down logging. And when you shut down logging, nobody's clearing those forests. And when people aren't clearing those forests and you're not doing controlled burns and you're not thinning the forest the way you're supposed to, even though the loggers used to do it themselves, now you got a problem. You have a giant tinderbox sitting there in those forests. So what'd you expect to happen, Jay Inslee? You were governor for 12 years, and things only got worse on your watch. When I first moved here, yeah, sure, there's wildfire season, but it didn't come with the actual wildfires. It was this is the time of year you got to be cautious because it's drier, because it's windier, because of this, because of that. It's gotten progressively worse, thanks to you. In fact, we have the documents from the Department of Natural Resources begging Bob Ferguson to do something about it because it had gotten so bad. So, Jay, maybe stay in your lane. Maybe stay in Idaho. Stay in Idaho. Don't be talking about the climate change because every time you do, you look stupid, especially when the response teams to this are saying it was human-caused, Jay. Wrong again. Wrong again. Like you were for 975 days of emergency powers. Can you just go away? Can you just go away? Mary says over on the text line, existential. Is that the only the only adjective that dear Inslee knows? That's very, very good. That's very, very good. This one here from the 425. Jay is just like Al Gore. You mean none of his predictions have come true and he's always, always wrong? In fact, here, somebody just shared an article with me like I was just mentioning from KXLY, how the DNR is bracing, how state lawmakers slashed millions in fire prevention. Who controls the Washington legislature right now? Is that the Democrats or the Republicans? Right. This is a common theme here, the $60 million that was cut from fire prevention. You think maybe that might have been helpful with all this going on? You guys caused this problem. Jay Inslee, 12 years of mismanagement, caused this problem. The 425 wants me to invite Inslee on my show. Okay, we've tried that before. We got a big how about no for, let's see, the 2 or 3 years I was on air while Jay Inslee was still governor. Yeah, I don't think he's going to agree to come on right now. The great debate. The guy who's trying to be relevant, yeah, you know he's just gearing up to run for president again. Maybe this time he'll get more than 0.0. Nah, not likely. I think he'll probably get less than that. People will go, who? A lot easier to run when people actually know you in your own state. Now everybody completely hates him. Hates him beyond belief. Jay, stay in Idaho. We don't want to talk to you anymore. Up next, my friends, somebody who may not be long for her office, Katie Wilson. We found out how much she paid a police chief to resign, and it's astronomical, an insane amount of money. Tell you how much and what for when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, if you can't get enough of our show, you get a whole extra hour from 6 to 7 p.m. during the Ari Hoffman Show Reloaded, brought to you by our friends over at Wade's Eastside Guns and Bellevue Indoor Range, Puget Sound's premier destination for everything firearms. So it's all content from today that you may have missed on the show. You get that from 6 to 7 p.m. every single weekday going forward, thanks to our friends over at Wade's. You know, I'd never been to Wade's before. I've been to a lot of other ranges around here. I went this weekend. Had a great time with my son. He had a friend in town. We pulled out my Banshee. It's a 9mm, big sucker. Oh, we had a lot of fun with that. Had a little bit too much fun with that, I will say. But yes, head on out to Wade's. They got everything you need. Plus, they got an amazing shop. They got everything out there. So head on out to Wade's Eastside Guns and Bellevue Indoor Range. Meanwhile, what's happening locally? So Saturday night, somebody had dropped me an email with the settlement agreement that Seattle Mayor Katie Wilson gave to former police chief Sean Barnes. It's insane. It's insane. So you wonder why all of a sudden the guy went from texting everybody he'd been fired to he resigned. Well, if somebody gave me $700,000, I'd stop fighting also. According to an optional resignation agreement, Barnes will leave City Hall with 18 months of salary, worth approximately $560,000, more than $30,000 in taxpayer-funded health insurance, payment for unused vacation leave, and the ability to keep $110,000 in hiring and relocation incentives that the city agreed not to recover, even though he never relocated. So the guy stayed in Chicago, never relocated. So what relocation incentives are we giving him? This guy, let's not forget, two things can be true at once. Was Barnes the fall guy for Katie Wilson's incompetence? Yes, but he was incompetent on his own. Here, you want an example? Do we have a description of the multiple at-large suspects who are still out there? I was sitting in the front row of that press conference. So, Katie Wilson's mad at Sean Barnes. Why? Because he's a police chief, but he's here in Chicago. He's the police chief here, but he lives in Chicago. His family lives in Chicago. Who'd you replace him with? Another police chief whose family lives in Chicago. Also, we haven't gotten a description of the suspects yet. Haven't gotten one. So one of the first questions we give to the new police chief, hey, you got a subscription? You got a description of those suspects? Nope, not going to give you one. Not going to do it. Just not going to do it. So no description of the suspects. People kept saying, is Seafair going to be safe? And I said from the beginning, yeah, Seafair is going to be safe. You know why? They have metal detectors. They don't have metal detectors at most Seattle Center events. So I knew Seafair was going to be perfectly fine. Plus, the wrong place to pick a fight is where the Army and the Marines and the Navy and the Coast Guard and the Space Force all have recruiting. There's a lot of guns down there on top of the police and the National Guard and everybody else who's down there. So let's be real about this. Really bad place to pick a fight. Yet we're going to give this guy $700,000. Well, at least now he'll be able to pay off that lien, that tax lien for almost $80,000. Couldn't do that while he's paying for his house in Chicago and his swanky apartment here in Seattle. I did know some of the other media picked that up after Jonathan Cho and I broke that story last week. Now all of a sudden they're talking about the tax liens. Are they trying to get back in good with the mayor by saying, okay, yeah. Okay, we know he's a bad guy. He's not a good police chief. He's an incompetent moron. At the same time, he's also her fall guy. Katie Wilson's still there. Okay, so a few days have gone by. Anybody hear from the mayor? Do we have any more information? Last week, the new interim police chief, Chief Sales, said they were close to an arrest. They knew who the suspects were. Well, why don't you tell the rest of us? Why don't you tell the rest of us? I have a theory, by the way. We don't go off of 911 calls because 911 calls are usually wrong. It's unconfirmed information. We have one description of one of the suspects from a 911 call, and like I said, we don't know it's accurate. Witnesses often don't know what they saw. I use this example all the time. When my class was learning 12 Angry Men in 8th grade, my father's a lawyer. He had me and my buddy Michael, we call him Grunny. He had us get into a staged fight in the classroom and run out of the room. And then my father asked everybody what they saw, and all of them got it wrong. Every single one of them. Just showing you they can't trust a witness necessarily. So one of the 911 calls mentions a description of a guy who looks Arabic. What does that actually mean? Does that mean they're covering it up? So far, they haven't told us the details of the suspect who's dead. The one who's in custody, they won't give us the details. Do you think it's because they're too woke? That was under Chief Barnes, the guy who didn't want to release the Trans Shooters Manifesto of the Christian school in Madison because he wanted to be sensitive to the shooter's family. Well, now we got a new police chief. We're going to get a description of the suspect. You know the biggest news that came out of that press conference on Friday? There are multiple suspects at large, and we don't have a description on any of them. And you had an event this weekend in Seattle, in South Seattle, and we know that a lot of this is tied back to South Seattle gang violence. And they didn't give us any descriptions. But they gave Sean Barnes, the most incompetent police chief, not that we've ever had, but an incompetent police chief, $700,000. So approximately 18 months of salary, which totals roughly $560,000 before taxes, 12 months of Cobra health insurance, great, which is about $30,000. Payment for all unused accrued vacation leave. What do you mean accrued vacation leave? The guy's been gone half the time. I get docked when I leave town. The ability to keep the $50,000 hiring incentive he received when he joined the Seattle Police Department. No obligation to repay the $60,000 in relocation benefits. You mean the benefits he never used because he never relocated here. What a grift. What a scam. Typical Democrat solution. Katie Wilson could just said, you're fired. But you want him to say he's resigned, so now it costs you and me about $700,000 while we have a budget crisis in the city. But she doesn't care. She's going to raise taxes on you anyway to pay for this. Unbelievable, yet so expected. At the press conference on Friday, we literally were asking the people in the media, did he get a severance? How much was it? She's like, that's going to stay between me and the chief. It's taxpayer money. You don't get to do that. We get to know how much you gave him. $700,000 plus. Insane. Absolutely insane. Can we get some elected officials with common sense around here? Joining us next, my friends, Doug Bassler, running for Congress in my very own district. Maybe get some Republican common sense, some conservative common sense, some moderate common sense. We'll hear what he's all about when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Today's Newsmaker Spotlight brought to you by Renewal by Andersen, Western Washington, windows and doors for every home. So I was filling out my ballot this morning, and as I'm looking at it, I go, wow, most of these people, there's no good option in most of these races. I wrote in Jimothy, the disabled, or I should say handy-capable raccoon that has been going viral because there are such bad options. However, there is one good option, at least on my ballot. Joining us now on the KVI studio line, candidate for Congress, the one and only Doug Bassler. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Always a pleasure, Ari. How you doing?
I'm doing good. So, Doug, as I look at your race, you've got Shama Sawant You've got Melissa Chowdhury. You've got Adam Smith. What are the odds they all split up these votes between all the lefties and you actually squeak through?
That's the hope, right? I did get knocked out back in 2018 by Sarah Smith, who was a socialist. And we had Chaudhry knocked out Paul Martin last year. So we really need the GOP to VOTE, brother.
Yeah. And don't forget, people, my pledge, which is if you call the show to complain about elections for at least the next month after Election Day, I will be saying, did you fill out a ballot? And if your answer is no, I am hanging up on you because you don't get to complain if you didn't vote. Doug, tell me why you're running. This isn't a new thing for you. You've been interested in politics for a long, long time. You've run before. Why are you running again?
So I'm very excited about the fact that it feels like the pendulum's turning. What really encouraged me was how quickly that Let's Go Washington got the signatures to repeal this income tax. And that was a big part of it as well. And so, I keep swinging. You can't win if you don't play the game. You got to get in. I tell people all the time, hey, let's run, let's go, let's do things. And I feel like one of the things that's best about my campaign in particular is that I'm kind of a sane choice. I'm not crazy right, crazy left. I'm your neighbor. I'm that guy.
I know Doug personally. I've known Doug since I got the radio job, maybe a little bit before then as well. No, actually, it was right when I got the radio job. That's when I met Doug. Doug goes out and preaches to people. Doug goes out and helps the homeless. Doug has his own company that he runs. And he does this because he truly wants to make Washington itself better, as opposed to other people who just seem to want to get their agenda across. So, Doug, federal's not local. So if you're in Congress, it doesn't mean you can necessarily deal with things that are happening locally. What do you want to deal with on a federal level?
Well, you know what they say, Ari, all politics is local, right? And so we have a president that is highly loved and highly hated. Incredibly polarizing person. But we have to admit that a lot of these policies are really lighting a fire into the economy. And really, the Seattle area, Bellevue, Seattle, Redmond, this area, we should be leading the opportunity revolution with the AI explosion and these different things. And so my job at the federal level is to make sure that Washington is being taken care of in opening the door for opportunity for everybody. My opponent, Shama Swant, she wants to have a political revolution, brother. I want to have an opportunity revolution. So whatever I can do at the federal level that helps to spur on the economy, create better jobs, more jobs for all of us, especially for our young people. We want them to be able to buy homes. We want them to have families. We want them to do well. We want a bright future for everybody, and that's my goal, brother.
So, Doug, we're looking at this race. We're looking at who you're running against. Let me just count this off here. You've got a Democrat who's trying to be a socialist because they're worried about being beaten by a Marxist. You've got an actual Marxist who destroyed Seattle and is bragging about the policies that destroyed Seattle. You've got a person who seems to be running on I hate Jews, I hate Israel, and then there's you. It's not hard to stand out in this bunch as somebody rational, right?
Yeah. During crazy times, I probably look pretty normal. 541. That's the number. 541. 2 years ago, that's how many Amazon jobs were in Bellevue. Today, we have 15,000 Amazon jobs in Bellevue, and they all came from Seattle. So you've got Seattle with this 38% vacancy rate and office buildings and things like that. That's Shama Swant, and she's bragging about it. Then you've got Adam Smith. The dude blames Trump for everything. Our $5 a gallon gas here in Washington, that's not Trump. That's them. Our high property taxes, that's these guys. So it's time. It's time for people to wake up and say, hey, you know what? We've given Democrats the last 40 years. Why don't we give the Republicans a chance?
Doug Bassler, if people want to learn more about you, if they want to learn about you, if they want to donate, if they want to volunteer, what's the best way for them to do so?
DougBassler.com.
Doug Bassler running for Congress this cycle. Best of luck to you tomorrow, sir. And reminder to everybody to get those ballots in, because if you call the show to complain about something, I will be asking you if you got your ballot in. And if the answer is no, we will automatically hang up on you. Doug Bassler, appreciate you being part of the show today, my friend.
Thanks, Dan.
Best of luck tomorrow. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Only good news to wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVN. Before we get to our good news headlines, just a reminder, guys, tomorrow is the primary. Tomorrow is election day. You got to get those ballots in. I'm going to drop mine off on the way home. Going to make sure I take care of that. But this text from Joanne. Joanne, I know you mean well. I do, but it says this. Hey, Ari, I was filling out my ballot today. I wasn't exactly sure which judges to vote for. I got my list up at KVI.com. Joanne, it's all right there for you. Now, mind you, Joanne did post one of these anti-conservative forces are trying to take the court. Far-right donors. Yeah, all that craziness. So don't listen to that nonsense. Just go to My Voter's Guide. It's up at KVI.com. It's right there on the main page. You can find it right there. So make sure you vote. Get those ballots in. They are due tomorrow. Make sure you get those ballots in. Also, in other news, some people today were laughing about a social media post I put up because I filled out my ballot this morning. And there's so many races where I don't see anybody with viability or that's worth voting for that I just wrote Jimothy. And I think a lot of other people are doing that this cycle too, because a lot of you replied with the pictures of you doing the exact same thing. In fact, even Bob Ferguson's in on this. So Seattle's favorite internet celebrity has received another honor. Washington Governor Bob Ferguson named Jimothy, the viral raccoon believed to have a rare spinal condition, states Washingtonian of the day, praising the animal's resilience after it captured the hearts of millions online. Bob Ferguson announced the informal recognition in a video posted to social media saying Jimothy had captured the hearts of people across Washington and around the world. He says, I think it's one of the reasons why he's captured so much attention, is that it shows a certain resilience in getting by and even thriving given that deformity. Speaking of deformities. Anyway, Jimothy became an internet sensation in mid-July after a video of the raccoon waddling through a Seattle neighborhood, through Ballard, by the way, guys, went viral. Wildlife experts believe the animal likely has a short spine syndrome, a rare congenital condition that gives him his distinctive rounded appearance. So he gets to be Washingtonian of the day. Since then, he's inspired murals, bobbleheads, tattoos, merchandise, and fan art. Even Senator Jamie Peterson to do such a cringy campaign video. Seattle officials have embraced the furry celebrity, with city leaders planning a community celebration and proclaiming the summer of 2026 as Jimothy Summer. Despite the raccoon's newfound fame, wildlife and public health officials continue urging fans to admire him from a distance. They warn against feeding or approaching him, noting that raccoons remain wild animals, can bite or scratch, and you don't know if that thing has rabies. You have no idea. Jimothy's unlikely rise from neighborhood regular statewide icon has made him one of the Pacific Northwest's most recognizable animals. But if you want other recognizable animals in the Pacific Northwest, my friends, Woodland Park Zoo has named its newest arrival a baby colobus monkey born June 15th, who has now been named Ngobi. Ngobi Kenobi, the zoo said, is from Bantu origin and is primarily found among the Ganda people of Uganda, one of several African countries where Columbus monkeys are found. Ngobi was born to mom Mokiki and dad Lewis. Sorry. That's marking the first birth of the species at the Woodland Park Zoo in 29 years. Unlike adults, black and white Columbus monkeys are born completely white with pink faces. Over their first 3 months, their fur gradually changes to the species' distinctive black and white coloring. It's like the scene in Crimson Tide when they're talking about the Lippin's-Otter Stallions, the horses, and you got Gene Hackman, and you got Denzel Washington, and they're talking about the horses, and they've been talking about the horses the whole movie, and then they're sitting across from each other as they're about to find the EAM, letting them know if they should launch the nuclear missiles. And then Gene Hackman, after they just punch each other in the face, is like, speaking of horses, the Lippin's-Otter Stallions, they are from Spain, not from Portugal. And Denzel Washington says, well, when they're born, they're born, they're not white, they're born black in that big poignant moment. Sorry, I don't know. Total tangent there, just thinking about that. I love that stupid movie. It's a great movie. It really is a great movie.
I couldn't help you out on that one.
You don't remember the lines?
No.
Okay, so what happens is you got them about to launch the nuclear missiles. All right, I see what you're doing there. Unlike adults, black and white kilometers. Wait, we did that already. Okay, that's what made me think of this whole thing. Visitors can see Ngobi with Mokiki Lewis and half-sister Anapeda. Mokiki Lewis and Gobi. Mokiki Ngobi, Anapeda, and Lewis. Okay, one of these things is not like the other. In the outdoor section of the tropical rainforest loop. I don't think a lot of people are going to be going to the outdoor section of the tropical rainforest loop anytime soon with the weather we're about to have. By the way, Seafair Sunday. Real shame that the Blue Angels didn't fly on Saturday, but we got them Friday and we got them Sunday, and it was a great show on Sunday. I didn't see Fat Albert flying around. Did I miss him? Is he having mechanical issues? I didn't see the big cargo plane flying around. But great show from the Blue Angels. In fact, my father-in-law was telling me he was coming back from fishing, and they flew into Boeing Field. And they land at Boeing Field. The Blue Angels are right there, but he tells me he had to use the bathroom. Get off a plane. Older gentleman had to use the bathroom. Runs to the bathroom as he's going in. He almost runs smack dab into a Blue Angels pilot. It was the lady pilot from the Blue Angels. Almost ran right into her, he says. He says she stands out in the crowd. Very, very tall, he says. Anyway, Blue Angels all around doing their thing. It was great. I decided next year I really want to be on the water. I've never been on the water for the Blue Angels before. That's something I want to do next year. This year, enjoyed a barbecue at a friend's house. That was a lot of fun. Had a good time.
You've been on the water before, though, right? For Seafair, just not. Well, I guess it wouldn't make sense. If you were on the water, then you would have seen the Blue Angels at some point.
Right. No,
yeah.
so I've been on the water, and I actually said I'm never going out on Seafair Sunday ever again because it's just too crazy out there.
Yeah, that's what I hear. Isn't it kind of like once you're out there, you kind of have to stay out there?
Well, if you're at Seafair on the log boom, once you're out there, you are stuck out there. There's a few other places where once you're there, you're stuck. The other place is just nuts. So, like, for example, I took my son wakeboarding yesterday, and we went out at like 6. Hoping that it would be calm by then, 6:30. Went out around 6:30. It's still nuts. And I couldn't tell if it was from the wind or from all the boats that are out there just zipping and coming and going. And plus, everybody's drunk. So everybody's drunk in the boats on the way. Not the best time to be out on the water, I will just say. Lots of fun, but not the best time. But yeah, luckily we got it in yesterday because I was worried about the smoke coming over. That, he's only here for a week or so. And I was worried that we wouldn't be able to do that. Tomorrow, we are supposed to be going jet skiing in the morning before I come in. So we'll see what the smoke condition is like tomorrow morning when we go do that. But yeah, went out on the water yesterday for a little bit. I didn't see as many flyovers as I normally do with Seafair. Usually with Seafair, it's plane. I didn't see as much of the stuff as I normally do. Also, the other thing is, over at the Flight Museum, they have a whole bunch of events, but the Blue Angels don't park over there anymore. They park farther away. I think they've been doing it since COVID or something because they're new F-16s or whatever it is. So they park farther away, but still a lot of fun. There were a lot of people in my synagogue this weekend who are not normally in town. There were visitors coming through, hiking through the Pacific Northwest. And I'm like mayor of Seafair at this point. I'm like, here's where you got to go. Here's what time you got to be there. These are the things you got to do. I love Seafair. I really, really do. It's a never miss weekend. The wife says to me, can we go out of town this weekend? I go, first weekend of August? She goes, yeah. I go, no, we ain't going anywhere. We are a Seafair family. That is what we do. We love this kind of stuff. I'm all about the Seafair stuff. My grandfather, I think, was the first one who told me about the Blue Angels. Took me out to a flight museum. There was a Blue Angel there. I said, why is that airplane blue? He said, let me tell you. And that was one of the old prop planes they used to do that with. That's going to do it for us today, my friends. But fear not, we will be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and, of course, more giveaways. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.